and click your OK to authorize.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you just fine.
Okay.
So we are now live streaming. Welcome to Worldwide Stock Car Chat on Zoom. I am your host, Greg Gaub. The gang is all here with Luff and John and Don and Wayne and Yuna and Lenny and Garth and Courtney and forgot the king of Rides and Adventures name, Ernie, Jeremy, Dennis, Mike, Dewan, David. Oh, and Marco has finally shown his face. So since Marco has dragged Ernie into the chat, we're going to put him on the spot and start the show with whatever Marco wanted to drag Ernie in here about. Ready, Marco?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So yeah, this chat just became VIP. Look at this. Ernie's here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I've never seen his face.
Yeah. So what I have here is something very interesting because Ernie during the UK Slot Car Festival showed some prototypes, including the very expected Corvette C1 with the metal chassis, and he sent to us for pictures. And Carlos was working on the pictures, and now I have the prototypes here. But I made a mistake. I put on display, so I need to call Mark and pick up the cars from display. Oh, Carlos is going. All right. So Carlos is bringing the cars from display. Sorry, Mark. Mark just finished this beautiful job putting everything cool and prototype reading on it. So anyway.
Can you do a screen share of the pictures, or hasn't offloaded them from the camera yet?
No, I still no. Oh well, I might have. I think. Let me see. You send me on Dropbox, but yeah, I can show you. And I think Ernie is the best one to talk about it. And then we can. We of course there's a lot of prototypes that we still don't have released and stuff like that, but they are here, and then we can show you on details, and Ernie can go about the engineering. In my opinion, the metal chassis Corvette is going to be just an amazing class. If we have, I have a local club here called the Ferrari Club, where Dewan and Frank they are part of it, and those cars they're going to be exactly the correct match for the old Nico class. So yeah, I have the cars here. I have some Ferraris. I need the shadow. Oh, this is Carlos.
There's Carlos.
And then, actually other cars, yeah. Yeah, I think if you guys want to start, I have the Corvette here, and Ernie can start to talk about it.
Go for it.
You going to show the car, or we're just going to start? Oh, okay. There it is. Okay, good. So, I guess a lot of you guys might know that I really had my start in slot cars with metal chassis going back years and years and years back. And I always thought that these beautiful old classic cars could really benefit from a metal chassis because, as you know, the smaller the slot car is, the harder it is to drive if it's just a plastic chassis. And so that idea did come about based on those great classic cars that Ninco did make. So we're going to be focusing on 60s GT cars. As you know, the first one is the Corvette. Some of you may have seen this poster online. This is the poster that we took to the UK Slot Festival. It's hard for you guys to see it. Maybe it's not. Anyway, it's not in focus. Anyway.
Not in focus?
Is it not in focus? Where did I go?
You need to hold the leaflet close to your face, Ernie.
Yeah, it's also because you have a blurred background. If you remove the blur,
that's what's doing it? Okay.
Yeah.
But what about we put those my image on the camera so we can show the cars while Ernie talks about it?
Okay. Yeah, so as you can see, some of you guys have probably seen this picture already. This is a prototype. It does have an aluminum chassis plate. The motor pod and the guide holder, those are 3D printed parts, which will be molded eventually in black. They'll be molded from nylon, and they'll be glass filled. If you look closely, there's also some nylon uprights that support the front axle. If some of you guys are familiar with the slotted replacement metal chassis kit that I produced, it's the same upright used in this car. So basically the whole concept with this car is that it's a dedicated metal chassis for each particular model, but then everything else is plug and play. Oops, there we go. Well, that's good. There's a good picture.
So those are not the final pictures. We still have to do some treatment on that, but I think it's better to show it like this.
Yeah, you can see, and I'll take you guys through it. It does take a regular guide. It takes either a regular guide or a wood track guide, the ones that we've been producing up until this point. It will feature aluminum wheels on all four corners. The rubber that will come on the car is the basic rubber, same as you would have on a slotted car. Same kind of rubber. I just discovered today that Pendle offers a rubber tire that's a direct replacement, which will fit on these wheels. So if you want to upgrade to a softer, gummier rubber, you can do that. The motor that will come in the car is an 18,000 RPM slimline motor. It'll feature motor brushes instead of the more traditional, what they call F type motors, which had just tangential little fingers that touch the commutator. So with carbon brushes, you get a torqueier, smoother, longer lasting motor. It'll come geared 10-24. You'll be able to buy a 9 and 11 to go in the car, and the gear on the back will be a slotted offset gear. It'll come, like I said, with a 10-24, and then you'll be able to change that to either a 23 or a 25. So you've got a bit of room for gear ratios.
Ernie, is there an offset in the motor pod that requires the offset gear?
Yes, because with the small motor, if you want to get low in the car, you need an offset crown gear to be able to work with the motor position.
I see. Yes.
One of the reasons we went with the slimline motor, it just afforded us a bit more room for as close as we could to a proper interior. So the interior will feature like a full torso driver figure with helmet. Part of his legs will be molded into the interior. It'll have metal bushings in the rear. It will also have metal bushings in the front. The uprights in the front have bronze bushings inserted, and you'll be able to adjust the position of that bushing top to bottom with the set screws, which will come in the car.
I'm trying
Marco's
to find more pictures. Just a second.
I know.
Okay.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Yeah.
My Dropbox not helping us. It's not opening the links.
Well, your bandwidth is being consumed at the moment.
Ernie, while he's searching,
Sure.
Are you planning on producing these in specific liveries or just solid colors? Anything in mind, or have we got that far yet?
Well, the first release will be the 1960 Corvette that won the GT category in Le Mans. It will be the first livery that we'll do, and then we'll also do white kits at the same time as well.
Can you guys see the picture now?
You stopped your share.
There you go. Can you see now?
You need to restart your share.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. So I was going to tell everybody else too, a couple more details about the chassis. If you look closely at the sides of the chassis, you'll see 3 red little aluminum standoffs. Those are like T-nuts. And there's a steel arm which sits on top of silicone washers and underneath the T-nuts and has about a 0.5 millimeter of movement. So that can rattle a little bit. So you've got a bit of body float by virtue of that little setup there. And the body will attach at the side. So you'll see there'll be 4 body posts, 2 on each side.
But those can be adjusted with like bigger spacers or whatever for more float or less float or whatever.
They actually the arms on the side are designed so that the body comes down. You see how it sits on the chassis. It sits so the side of the body is level with the bottom edge of the chassis. There was one other thing. If we can go back to a picture of the chassis, I wanted to explain one more thing to you guys. There we go. Can you blow that up a little bit or not? Is that as big as we can have it?
I think it's pretty big here on the screen.
Okay.
Can you zoom
Maybe
in?
here.
Your scroll
Okay.
wheel might
Like
zoom in.
this?
There you go.
Oh, that's
There
good.
you
Okay,
go.
so let me take you guys through this a little bit. The motor pod, if you look closely at the two winglets on each side of the pod, between the little winglets and the chassis is a spacer. And so that spacer limits the pod from rocking side to side. And if you can make it out underneath the central T-nuts in the motor pod, you'll make out a little silicone washer. So there's a bit of suspension when you get the car, like a bit of front to back. But getting back to those spacers, if you remove those spacers, then you can insert a couple more T-nuts, and now you can get the pod to rock a little bit side to side. The other cool thing about the pod is the point at which the pod touches the chassis is rounded, so it can rotate a little bit. And then the openings for the T-nuts are actually conical side to side. So that allows, because the T-nut is fastened to the chassis, there's a bit of clearance in the motor pod to allow it to rock side to side.
Yeah.
There we go. That's a good picture. That's the next thing I wanted to talk about. If you look closely, just where the gears mesh, you'll see two black screws and what looks like a magnet. So for the magnet lovers out there, there is a little holder that holds a magnet. And since the car is designed to clear the ground by 3 millimeters to give it some sense of realism, the magnet pocket holder, whatever you want to call it, it actually sits 1 millimeter proud of the bottom of the chassis. So it's in essence 2 millimeters from the rail. So it gives you like a decent, not an overpowering amount of magnetism, but just enough for guys that want to have it with a bit more control. But if you take those two black screws off completely, then that whole magnet holder will come away from the car 100%. So,
is it possible to use either loosen the screws or use longer screws to get it closer to the track, like the SCX motor magnet pocket?
As a matter of fact, you can. Like, I forget how long the screws are, but you could probably undo it like another 0.5 to 1 millimeter,
yeah,
so that you can make it even closer to the rail if you wanted to. There we go. You can see that little, you can all see the body mounts on the side.
Yep.
Those might eventually be full circles. We're not sure yet. We're going to try doing like a complete circle, so the body and the chassis are a little bit more captive. And that way, if you want to, you can then loosen the body a little bit more from the chassis without fear that the chassis is going to fly away from the body.
More pictures of the car.
Yeah, there's a few different variations of the body. There'll be some with front fenders, some without fenders. We've also in the mold accommodated for the headlight covers for daytime running. Some of the pictures you might see online of this car, you'll see what looks like double cups over the headlights. So we'll be able to do that little variation as well.
And of course, those are not the final product. The glass is not this. It's just like for a prototype, missing mirrors, missing.
Yes, there's a few
wipers.
details in the driver figures missing. They weren't sure if they were going to actually be able to mold the interior, or sorry, the windows and clear it. So I didn't bother asking for the driver figure, but the driver figure has been designed. We should have test shots ready to show or to at least examine in about 2 weeks. The factory's working on that. As soon as this car goes into production, then we're going to start on the Ferrari 250, and possibly we'll do the Aston Martin at the same time.
The 250 SWB, the short wheelbase.
The short wheelbase Ferrari, yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Sterling Moss car. Yeah. So. Yeah, so that's it. Any more questions? Oh, by the way, the aluminum plate is 2 millimeters thick. I haven't had a chance to weigh the car, but I'm going to guess it's probably around 80 grams.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Is that heavy or light? I forget. I'd have to.
Oh, that sounds good.
I can do this right now.
Okay, stick it on the scale. Stick it on the scale.
Definitely wants to know.
Yeah. So we, in the design process, I mean, if you guys are curious to know, there was a lot of time spent trying to get the wheel wells and the tires to look proper. You know, it's not just a simple circular wheel well. So we spent a lot of time trying to get that right, and a lot of back and forth. It's a long, tedious process sometimes, the design process. But when you're doing a car like this, and if the wheel just doesn't look right in the wheel well, then it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So,
how is the roof component attached to the glass?
I'm sorry?
How does the roof component attach to the glass, Ernie?
It's I haven't actually confirmed, but I think this will be able to be made as a convertible down the road. We haven't actually had a chance to really examine that closely, but the way it's been molded, it looks like the rooftop is separate. So at this point in time, we'll focus on the hardtops. If down the road we want to do a convertible, we might have to change a few things in the mold, but for now we'll focus on hardtops. Does that answer your question? I wasn't quite sure what your question was. I apologize.
It looked like a separate component, being a different color. So I was wondering how it was attached.
Yeah.
Was it a case of some pins and some melts?
Well, we haven't had a close look at the underside, but the rooftop and the windshield structure is all connected together, and then it's fastened to the body. So,
see.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that have been designing this are really, really good.
I'm still sharing now, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sharing the screen?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, here. You guys can see me now?
You need to stop your share before I can
just
highlight
highlight him.
I can't highlight him without him stopping the share, or I can stop the share. You got to pick one or the other. Highlight or share.
I have here new share, and I have here resume. Oh, stop share. Right, there you go.
There, I've stopped your share.
Oh, here's the car. Here's the chassis. I have to take, sorry, Ernie, I have to take the body out of the chassis because the chassis with the body was without a motor.
Oh, okay.
Here's the system to put this is the system to put the body back on.
Yep.
And just,
Pretty much like the reverse look stuff.
Yeah.
Did you weigh it?
no, not yet. No, I'm not gonna do it. No hubcaps, all right?
No driver figure.
No driver.
Add a few grams. So some of the guys are also wondering about the way the standoffs attached to the chassis. The cool thing is that there are screws out there that actually have Loctite already on the thread. And so it's really, really cool. So my big fear was that things were going to rattle apart, but we do have screws now that have Loctite already placed on the thread when you buy the screws. It's kind of cool.
77 grams.
Okay, so by the time we add a few more things, close to 79, a couple grams for the driver, some bits and pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, but how much for the chassis without the body, and then how much for the body?
Oh my God! All right, let's go.
You're on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. The question.
17 grams the body shows without the driver and without paint.
Oh, good.
That's pretty good, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, funny.
And the chassis, the full chassis with the motor, 59.9, so 60 grams.
That's 60 grams. Okay.
The guys want to know the chassis without a motor too?
Of course. No.
So by the way, guys, I let you in on
34 grams. And my wallet, if you guys are curious, we are carrying 62 grams on my wallet.
Okay, thank you, Marco.
Wow.
Go ahead.
Welcome to Weight Watchers, everyone.
Weight Watchers.
All right, Ernie was trying to say something.
No, I was just going to say, in the slot car design world, we are always 100% faithful to the original shape of the car, as you might know looking at some models. But this car and all cars in this series will be 99.9% faithful to the original shape. You notice the front of the body does hang up in the air, and you can see the guide flag, but you can appreciate if we try to stretch that geometry down to to cover the guide flag, then the car would look kind of goofy. Yeah. So I think everybody's kind of have to accept the fact that you can't cover every working detail of the car. You've got to be able to say, you know what, we can sell the appeal of the car based on most of the details and not have to worry so much about, covering every part of the car. So,
Yeah, I don't think that'll be an issue.
no. The car will come with aluminum wheels all around. It'll have the same size tire all around. We're shooting for about a 21 millimeter diameter tire. There we go. Okay. You can see the covers on the headlights.
Is that the winner, or is that a different car?
That should be the winning car. That's the winning car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Yeah.
I guess the very first thing that we see there, that the front end looks great, but the sides below the door panels, they look too long on the model. They're a bit
Well,
deep.
I said 99.9. So
Okay.
That's
If you
that
want
is the point one.
That's the
Yeah,
point.
that's the point one. I mean, it's, just for guys to go back a little bit, guys, when the Shadow came out, the Shadow from the real car, the Shadow slot car from the real car, there are some discrepancies if you really want to get picky when you start measuring things. And we just have to, at some point, draw the line and say, you know what, we have to accept these modifications. But Dennis, you are right. Old Hawkeye there, you caught that little detail.
But it's just it's
I
a
wouldn't pay for
matter.
it.
It's not so much a matter of measuring things. It's a matter of proportion and perspective.
Actually, Ernie, we all noticed that it was only Dennis who was going to call you out on it.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
Talking about shadows.
Ernie and I have come a little far enough now that I could call him on that.
Yeah, just to let you guys know, like, there were quite a few little things that had to be changed. Like on the real Shadow, the nose actually points up on an angle.
Yeah.
The suspensions back in the day were relatively soft, and so under braking, man, I remember when I saw that car, the car would lurch forward, and you could hear the titanium skid buttons scraping and sparking. So, and the side of the car too, like it's not perfectly the right clearance if you wanted to be really detailed about it. So.
But the overall impression of the Shadow is excellent because the proportions are really everything's still in relation to each other.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm a big believer that as long as you kind of sell the emotion of the car, if you're okay with most of the details, if it's close enough to what I mean, I'm sure there's going to be some rivet counters out there saying things about.
Yeah, but even when you do a scale model kit, it can't be perfect because if it is, it just doesn't look right. There has to be some liberty taken.
Yeah, sure, because we're not standing at scale height and we don't have scale eyes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, true. It's true. Yeah, we can't shrink ourselves down to 1/32 scale.
No.
Yeah.
You mentioned this is going to be a series. Will the wheels all be the same throughout the series?
That's a good question. I haven't had a chance to really check out the other two models that we want to do. If they're close enough, we'll probably leave it. It just makes things a bit simpler. But that is a good question, though. When we get to look at the Ferrari and the Aston Martin, we'll measure the tire diameter and see how close it is to the Corvette. So,
Can we talk about the Shadow a little bit?
Sure.
This is the one coming.
Jackie Oliver.
Second livery. I noticed that.
Yeah.
This is a prototype. It's coming. It's shipping soon, and I think the release date is going to be around July 15.
Nice.
Limited edition. We have on the business side, I can tell you that we have 4 companies distributing this. I have EBB via Ivan from Scale Auto distributing in Europe. I have Pendle Slot Car Racing distributing in the UK. And I have Lehman distributing this in Australia and New Zealand. And we at Electric Dreams will take care of the rest of the road. So we're doing a different work here because we already have images of this very good looking prototype that Ernie provided. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a promo date where everybody can list it, can make the listings for pre-order. And then we're going to have the official release date waiting for every single retailer in the road have the car before selling to avoid the rush, to avoid people getting cars before they should, and fair game for everybody who wants to sell it. This car marks the beginning of the relationship between Electric Dreams and MR's Lot Car. and it's the first of many. And we hope to do a very good and fair business to everyone, because what Ernie is delivering to us, I think it's high quality stuff.
That thing's gorgeous.
Flat cars, beautiful, and I think it's in the level or even higher than the big players that we have in the market right now. So this is the first one. We've been very careful about the release of this. Next, we're gonna have 3 more liveries of the Jacks, and then it keeps going on. I think we're gonna see this year, according to Ernie, the Corvette that you guys are talking about. And we also have 3 new Ferraris. If Ernie wants to talk a little bit more, I can pick up the Ferraris and show you that too.
Yeah, just one little note about the shadow there, Marco. If you can show everybody the helmet, we molded a new helmet. If you look closely, that is the Jackie Oliver helmet with the proper.
It's gorgeous.
It's not the same helmet, so it
That's
is.
lovely.
Right.
Yeah. So
I think one of the things about the shadow that you really hit out of the park with that appearance is the portion of the graphics and placement of the graphics or livery, whatever you call it, to the body. Even though there are changes in some of the body proportions, all the graphics in the right proportion to those things, that really looks great. Really, really.
thank you. Yeah, there was a lot of, for guys that don't know, I was at Mosport. I saw my very first race car, which was the Shadow, almost 50 years to the day. The weekend before your Memorial Day weekend, we had what's called Victoria Day, and that was a big day for racing at Mosport. So it was really close to my heart to be able to do that car. And the challenge to make the guide flag, the design of the guide flag took about 6 or 7 months to get it just the way it came out. So a lot of design changes that sometimes when we make a design which looked great and worked great, but then the factory couldn't mold it. So we had to go back and forth and 3D prototypes and stuff like that. But it's definitely worth the effort though.
Sure.
Will the Corvette chassis be available separately?
Not sure if I could answer that. Like to put it on under other cars, you mean?
Yeah, I was thinking to adapting like the Ninco, some of the Ninco cars to keep the class even.
I think they're a little bit wider than the Ninco class.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
It's sort of an open question. I would just kind of say I'm not sure at this point in time. So I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, we'll definitely have replacement parts. I mean, theoretically, you could buy all the parts and put it together, you know, buy the motor pod in the center section, put the rest of it on yourself. So, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. No
Another
problems.
car, another car that's coming in July, the white kit for the Shadows.
Yeah, that'll be coming at the same time as the 101 car. So,
You can do your Golf livery and
APS
Please,
Lotus
no.
colors, yes.
and a baby will die somewhere.
Give me a sec.
It'll look great in blue and pink and silver,
Yellow.
or blue and yellow.
Ernie, do you want to go around the new liveries for the Ferraris? Where's Ernie?
Wait for a second.
Oh, he left. He just left.
No, I'm sure somebody
What
said,
happened? Move.
"Hey!"
He went to check a baby or something.
Yeah.
No, sorry guys. Yeah. All right, I'm back. Now we've got a race tonight downstairs on our polycar track, and I didn't know the Zoom call was going, so I'm trying to manage everything here at the same time. So,
Ernie, do you wanna go around the new Ferraris?
yeah, let's go over the Ferrari. Sure, we can do that.
Okay. All right, so 3 new liveries coming along. I think like second semester or maybe 4th quarter. Ernie has more information, but this is the first one.
Yeah, these are all beautiful hand-painted prototypes. We have a local guy here who's just an amazing artist. He takes a white kit. We get the decals somewhere. There's a few sources for decals, and he puts these things together. So this is, of course, the very popular Le Mans Momo version. So this would probably be a very popular one. The other ones are also real liveries. There's a pilot car, two-tone blue, and then there's a third one, which is the GS sponsored ones.
Oh, I have them here. Don't spoil.
Okay.
Hold on. I have more pictures of the.
Okay.
Can share my screen again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Technologically. You guys can see it now, I believe. So I have some
there we-
pictures of
Yep.
the Momo livery here. You guys just saw. And there's one who needs to fix some stuff.
Very cool.
Pictures are not final, but yeah. So you
All
can
right,
have
cool.
an idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
And
I've
now,
got, sorry for interrupting, Marco. I got about 7 or 8 minutes. The guys are getting a bit restless. If the guys have more questions about any of this stuff, or you
well,
just want to
let's talk about 2 more. Here's the new.
Okay.
The new
Well, move it along. He's got time. He's got things to
move it
do.
along.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that? Marlboro? Oh, yeah.
It's a Marlboro without a Marlboro.
Yeah. Nice.
There you go.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have the last one, which is my favorite.
Oh, the pilot car.
The pilot.
Okay, this is cool.
Yeah. Wow.
Really beautiful paint job. Really nice looking cars. I know they've some other brand out there has already made them, but we'll try and also present them and hopefully be a market for those as well. So,
All right. Any other questions for Ernie before he's got to split?
Will there
I
be
got
white kits?
Oh,
Sorry?
Go ahead, Mr. Weber. Go ahead.
Will there be white kits of the Ferrari also?
yeah, they're already out actually. I think Marco's got some white kits already.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the Ferraris. Yeah.
Yeah, this will be the second batch of Ferraris. So they have been out in white kit. I'm not sure how many are left in the mix, but I'm pretty sure there's some out there. So we should talk about the Lotus. You got the Lotus handy?
Yes.
Okay.
Almost there. Hold on.
A
Okay,
little
good.
bit handy, not completely handy, just a little bit handy.
There we go. It's the Lotus Esprit Turbo.
Oh,
This car come on usually, I think, around 95, 96. And
That'll go great with the Jaguar.
this one, yeah, this is another GT1 car. This was a real labor of love to create this model. This was actually the same guy that did the painting. Started with a Lotus Esprit road car. Then he bought an M1 Pro car BMW, cut the fenders from the Pro car, grafted them onto this car, and built the front air dam and the wing all from scratch. Carved out the NACA duct in the roof. So and created the rear air tray, whatever you call that. What do you call it?
Diffuser.
The diffuser.
Diffuser, yeah. So yeah, really great guy. As a matter of fact, for what it's worth, guys, the Jag was also made from a Tamiya model and grafted to look like the GT1 race car. So this guy is just a genius. This guy paints Hot Wheels and they look like 1/18 scale diecast. It's just unbelievable. So
Why are you afraid to tell us his name?
his name is Kevin, but I won't tell you
There
his
we go.
last. Yeah, it's a good guy. Anyway, more questions, guys?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I just had one. Would you consider doing a universal chassis for your metal chassis classics?
Perhaps. I mean, the design of the Corvette, because of the way the chassis is designed, it's unique to that body. So theoretically, if you found another plastic body out there that was exactly the same wheelbase, then of course you could do that. To make it adjustable is a bit tricky because you'd have to be able to move the guide tongue and move the front axle supports. It's not impossible, but definitely. It even could be a molded, well, then it could be a molded plastic chassis, which is a bit easier to do, different positions for screws and things like that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have any long-term plans for a competitor with the Ferrari, like something that ran in the same era? Or is it
I
that's
do.
it? Oh, okay,
I
there you
do.
go. That's all I
It's
need to
kind
know.
of-
Thank
Kind
you.
of in the works, but we can't say. I generally don't announce cars until they're close to tooling because you don't want.
Yeah. You don't want
I mean,
somebody to jump
you
in
don't want to
there.
let the cat out of the bag and then stuff like that. So yeah.
Cool.
No,
Thanks.
definitely need something. Definitely need something for sure. So we might even have a co-runner to the Shadow.
Wow.
Oh, that
Breaking news
Ooh.
right here.
Ooh,
Yes, yeah. There's some cool stuff out there that hasn't been done yet. So
bad man.
yes, a lot of mystery.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Beef.
We very much appreciate you coming on to share all this.
Anytime, guys. Absolutely, yeah.
You are welcome anytime.
Thanks, guys. I wish you guys a great night. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Kids are getting
Thanks for
restless there, so
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
go play with the kids.
I'll play
Thanks,
with the
Ernie.
kids. You're welcome, guys. Have a great night. Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Bye.
Ernie is welcome anytime, but Marco, we need a warning when you decide to come in.
Yeah,
no
okay.
kidding.
All right.
Okay, boys. Take care, Marco.
Yeah.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you. See you later.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do some show and tell and other stuff, and then we'll see what we have time for. So if you have anything you want to show and or tell about your project,
I kind of have more stuff actually.
you always
Good.
have like an hour's
Go,
worth of stuff.
go.
You could go for the entire show. I know
No,
that.
just it's very quick, very quick.
Okay, well, since I don't see any other hands up yet, go ahead, Marco. Ah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I don't like to show off prototypes like that because I think it's not fair for other resellers. As much as we are the distributors for Slotted in America, I don't like to show off because it's kind of was not released yet, and we still have figured out the release date for that. But the reason that I have this guy here is that this is the very first Datsun 510 from Slotted, and we might have some Peter Brock here for our podcast. So that's why, that's why I asked Mauricio to send it here so I can show you when the man is here. So, and then using the fact that we have this car here, we might do a comparison video between Slotted and Revo.
I'd love that.
Even with some out of the box track testing.
Is that the production unit in your hand?
Yep.
Okay. So are they in the States? Is it safe to say?
No.
Just one is? Okay.
Yeah, just one. I think I don't believe it's a production unit. It's a test shot.
Okay.
It's full. It's very close to the final product. It's very close.
That's his
It's indiscernible from a final product, that one.
I can check the release date. Carlos, do you mind checking the release date? It's CA 59A. 1 second. I think it was published on their Facebook page.
Are those wheels the standard slotted wheels, or they look a little different? They look kind of skinny from here.
They're standard wheels.
Nice.
And so far as I know, independent fronts.
Outrageous.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it. I can check it. You guys want me to see it? Let's open it.
I'd love to see
Let's open it.
They
Let's
could have
open
used
it.
their one-way bearings from the LMPs.
Fala Q3, Q4.
Yeah, we still don't have an official release date, but says
Q3
between third quarter and fourth quarter. The reason, it's not independent wheels. I'm sorry. It was just a loose wheel.
Well, I guess it's still
That's how
independent wheels, just not the way
Yeah,
you want.
They come
Fully
off
independent from the
independently.
car.
Yeah.
So this was project was released last year during the Nationals here. Mauricio brought a very early prototype test shot. And luckily enough, we had John Morton here. And John Morton picked up the car, signed the car. So it's kind of cool. Yeah, it's a standard slotted car. Looks like a smaller DTM. The motor here, I think, is going to be the 20.5 or maybe the 18.5. Gear, brake, everything, detail, hubcaps to the car. The body is pretty light. I can weigh the body actually. I can have the equipment here. Okay.
I got to drive the original prototype when they came out last year, and it really felt very nice on our plastic track.
17.7 grams. 17.7 grams for the body.
Nice.
I like that flat interior tray.
Say,
Yeah.
small.
Yeah, me too.
You might actually struggle to show this, Marco, but you need to take a good look at the dashboard and in particular the instrument cluster.
Let's see. Oh yeah, look at this. It's molded. It's not the sticker.
It's also decorated, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh
There you
wow,
go.
check that out. Yeah. Oh, lovely.
It's not a sticker. It's molded.
Yeah,
It's molded and decorated.
molded and printed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah. You guys can see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, you were there.
Tuned into Carphone mostly on YouTube for a little preview at one point. Coming soon.
Yeah, pretty nice stuff from Mauricio. This car was not released yet because of licensing. I think this is the very first slot car in history to have double license. It gets the license from Nissan and gets the license from BRE. So that's why it was delayed. I think the project came along before Revo. Actually, when he presented it to me, he was talking about this idea for a long time. And the day that he presented to me, I was in Italy, and just after visiting him, I went to BRM. So need to keep my shit together. But here you go. I think it's going to be a very good seller. We already have a lot of pre-orders on this. And there's still no release date, and the release date is gonna be there when we have the license clear.
Marco, have you heard anything about potential for slotted making competitors for the 510, like the Alpha?
I can't hear you guys. Did somebody hear?
John, yes, they're in the planning phase.
Plans for competitors for that car.
There will be.
There's going to be more of the 2-liter class for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Sorry for taking so much of the time.
I mean, we expect it when you're on.
Okay, good.
It's Greg, good stuff, though.
Greg, I want to see you here for the Nationals, Greg.
I have another thing happening on that same day, so sorry.
Send me the phone number and I'll make sure that I take care of this. You need to be here.
No, sorry. Not there. Not this year. Maybe next year. We'll see.
All right.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Moving on. Let's get Dennis and then Jeremy.
All right. Jason was talking earlier about what was it? Cars that you inherited or that you got from somewhere, or
special car acquisition stories. So whatever
car acquisitions.
Story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me try this and show you this one coming up. So from the outside, just a vacuum formed body of an Alpha T33, the Palmer body. On the underneath, a brass chassis. Now, this car was built by one of the club members of the track that I raced at in South Africa from 1975 through 1989. And this car was built around 1976 or 7, I would think, maybe 6. Built by one of the club members for another one of the club members. And somehow it survived, and it ended up in the junk box of a friend of mine who was also yet another member of that club. And a couple of years ago, he gave it to me. And so, and then I restored it, put a new body on it. And so this is one of those things that, you get something from somewhere, and it's so many years later that you hardly think that you're ever going to be able to see something like that again. But that was a fun one. This one was given.
Did you know about it at the time, Dennis? Did you race against it back in the day?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I did.
Can you take the body off it, Dennis?
I probably got beaten by it a couple of times too. The way to take the body off is to you undo these 2 screws. Hold on, I only have 2 hands here.
Pretty, very pretty.
you undo those two screws, and then the body slides out like that. Okay, so on the bottom of the body is just some masking tape held on, masking tape on the inside, clear tape on the outside. That was how we mounted the bodies in those days. And then they clamp onto the chassis through these two little clamps. And that's how the bodies were held on. We had crazy rules in those days, like these silly little half-inch front wheels. And we ran Mura Group 20s in the back. So this thing is a beast because it has so much horsepower and so much weight. The whole car weighs, I think, close to 120 grams. But the guy who built it built a number of these like this, where everything was made out of 062 brass, and he would sit in front of his TV at night and file the pieces until they fitted. And sometimes they fitted so closely that the hinges wouldn't work, and he would have to go back and file a little bit of clearance into the hinges so that the side pans would actually move up and down. They had a lot of movement back in those days too, because, you know, the tracks weren't as good, the tires weren't as good. So that's that one. The other one was also given to me just as a piece of a chassis by one of the local racers down here, but he was actually from Central California. He gave me this car and said, "See what you can do with it." And once again, all brass. This one is held on with pins. Hold on, let me take the body off. There we go. Once again, vacuum form body. This body comes from Better Bodies in the UK. It's a Shadow DN2. And then this chassis, at the time that I got it, I had never seen one like this, but it had this funny little suspension system on the motor at the back, whereas it has these two screws with underneath the nut that's well up the shank of the screw, there's a little spring. So the whole back end of the car can suspend up and down.
Oh, it can
and
pivot
it's
forwards.
very similar to what some of the radio control car guys used to use for their cars.
Yeah.
So I put it together. I took it apart, cleaned it all, and rebuilt the motor and did all that. Got it running again. And at some stage, I put it, I think, on my Facebook page. And a guy up Greg's way, a fellow by the name of Bob Ward, who's a name from way back in slot car racing, I think, and particularly back in the very early days of proxy racing. Bob Ward said, "Oh, yeah, I made those chassis. I made a whole bunch of them." And so that's what it turned out to be. It's a Bob Ward chassis that he'd built. How it got to me, or how it got to the guy who gave it to me, I have no idea. But it has that kind of provenance that it belongs to a guy who was, in earlier days, quite a big name in slot car racing.
Cool. Is that a weight behind the guide? That plate over the axle?
No, that's the steel. That's the steel guide tongue that holds the guide at the front.
Okay.
It's cut down and then soldered right on top of the brass, so that there's a step at the front, so that the guide, because these guides are quite thick, and on the tracks that we ran, the braid or the rails are very close to the surface, so you want to be able to move the guide up a little bit in the car and get the chassis down, way down. So that's just a little steel plate.
Bob Ward, I'd never met him, but Bob Ward worked for Electrical Dreams for almost 5 years, and he used to write the listings. And we still, to this day, we find old listings from Bob Ward, and we have a lot of laughs because he was very funny doing the listings and telling the stories of the cars.
Yeah, he was quite an interesting character. I think. Did you know Bob?
I knew of him, and I met him once or twice. He had a store for a little while.
Yeah, he did.
And then he had to shut that down and moved away. And I think
Yeah, he opened that up after Fantasy World closed down, but it
Yeah.
didn't last either.
Yeah, you make tens of dollars in slot
Yeah,
cars.
yep, that's.
But yeah, good guy.
The only way to make millions out of slot car racing is to start with Scott Bader's multi-millions.
There you go.
All right, that's me.
Awesome, love that. All righty, thank you for showing that. And
That
Jeremy,
was a nice topic. Thanks. I'll think of a couple more.
yeah, if anybody else has interesting stories about car acquisitions of any kind, by all means, go ahead and dig it out and put your hand up. Jeremy, do you got an interesting acquisition or just something you want to show off?
You want to stick with interesting acquisitions?
I don't care. Just it's whatever.
Okay, well, speaking of tens of dollars in the slot car industry, this is my prototype number 2 for my tire cleaner. Hopefully I'm sharing now.
Yep.
So this one I decided to make out of Lexan and just swap the colors on it. Jim had asked for a wider place so if you're quickly going to put it down here, you can clean. And then I thought, a lot of guys if they're trying to be in a hurry, when you sit the car down, you just slide it forward and out the front. So that gives a little more speed to the whole process. I've got some here. So I like the wood. Actually, I made one in wood too. The wood one's a little lighter. The Lexan one, I'm gonna have to move this a little forward because it you can see the battery pack in there. I don't like that sitting there, but yeah, you would put it on there, clean your tires, go forward, set it back on the track and go. That is it. Any suggestions, feel free. I take all input.
You should post on Slot Forum International.
Yeah, because the guys there are so helpful usually, I've noticed. So
they're like that everywhere. Just, oh, well, I did that with a roll of duct tape. Yeah,
yep.
Whatever.
I said on this show, that was my first prototype, was an old Scale Electric display case. Started there, but again,
Jeremy,
so it is USB chargeable, and I did get the little insert there for the light there. So when it's charging, it's red, and then when it goes blue, you're done charging. So,
Are you planning to sell it?
yeah, that's how I get tens of dollars in this hobby. I sell all my stuff, but I don't know what I'm gonna charge for it yet. I have no idea.
I was gonna say, what's your MSRP?
Yeah. Oh, let me see my light. Let me see if this light will come in there. There's the light. So it's charging right now. It's red. Well, I've got bad lighting. There you go. So anyway, that's where we're at. I don't know. I have no idea what the MSRP, because like I said, I used to make mine out of cases from slot cars. So a 9-volt battery. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
I know you'll sell at least 2.
Yeah. Yeah. There's somebody in the UK who wants 2 right away. So.
Yeah.
And make another one in blue and yellow, and there'll be a 3.
Yeah.
It's handier than I thought it would be. So
it's like everything in slot cars, it's all about the tools.
Yeah.
And those guys who are using rolls of duct tape haven't worked that out yet. It's all about the tools.
Yeah,
well, I don't know how you guys race, but we only race like 15 laps per heat, so we don't have to worry about a 200 lap race where you want to take your car off and clean the tires real quick. But I know that Wayne does, so I mean, there are guys out there that do that.
Are you allowed to clean your tires between heats?
No, even if you were, there's no way you would at 15 laps. You're gonna have, I don't know.
I have a history of creating my own quick tire clean devices. Yeah.
And
Jeremy, do you use a liquid on the black strip?
Yeah. I like when I start my day, when I show up for the race, I put some lighter fluid on. I just put a couple drops on there, and I clean all my tires before I start. And that usually by the first race or so, it's not wet, but it's enough that it's damp still. So throughout the day, I might put a drop on it here or there, but I keep mine with me because we go through 4 lanes. So in between heats, we're allowed to clean it, and I've got my tire cleaned, ready, my sticker changed, and like while everybody else is kind of rolling it on a sticky paper thing, and I just didn't want to mess with all that. So.
So this is when you're running your silicones most of the time, or do you use it also for rubber?
I use it for rubber too. Yeah. Yeah, just because I use when I'm racing with the NSRs, I like to use lighter fluid to to get them clean after they've been soaking all night. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so what is the material that has the liquid in it again?
what is the what?
What's
Oh, the black?
Yeah.
Just Velcro. You can get
Oh yeah, the
Velcro in
Velcro.
any size you want, but use the soft side of the Velcro. Then it's just like a nice soft polyester material.
Yeah, I forgot what it was. Yeah.
But the other piece of the Velcro underneath, and then you could hang it on your T-shirt or something like that.
Stick it to my beard right here.
Yeah, yeah.
Race like that. Good thinking. I didn't. That's a pro tip.
Actually, you could comb its luxurious length with the
Yes, beard comb too. We guys are kind of all full of ideas. How am I not going to get rich with this idea?
You could go up in scales, when your beard gets
Yeah,
long.
and I said to $15.
Your lips to God's ears, $15s. All right.
Yeah. On the tool note, I like to say, or it's interesting when you have a discussion about tire chewers of any kind, mine or whatever, anybody else's, right? You always get the guys that are like, "Well, I just use sandpaper on my track; it works fine." But you never see a guy who says, "Yeah, I had a tire chewer and it was a waste of money, and I went back to sandpaper on the track." Never. It's always the guys with sandpaper say you don't need a tire chewer, but then once they get one, they're like, "Yeah, I should have had this a long time ago."
Mm.
And that's usually the last thing they sell when they get out of the hobby. They hold on to that thing because just in case they get back into it.
Yeah. Especially nice ones. Yeah. All right, good stuff. Any other questions for Jeremy? Moving on. Gio's got his hand up. What you got, Gio?
Just, a quick one. But then basically, I think I can follow up with. I don't know if you guys ever done what's called Club Corner yet. But so, yeah. So no, so this one just kind of prelude to that, to what we did last night. So maybe I'm gonna remove the blurring of background. So I don't know if you guys can see.
Thunderslot?
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm preparing like a small class. So there are 4 cars that are with a livery, although it's not a race livery, but at least have interesting colors. Look to that. And so I need another couple of them. So try to match with the colors of the. Oh, this comes very gold here, but it's more yellowish kind of. But okay. Yeah. So I'm using this as also kind of a test bed for trying to do the candy colors by using like a silver chrome base and then using clear color on top of that. So I'm using these Australian colors called the SMS. So they have a very good chrome color. And then I can spray on top of them whatever kind of clear. I think this one is a red from Mr. Robbie, and this chrome is kind of they have like a cold tone and warm tone. So this is a warm one. So you can say it's a not so in order to make it a bit deeper, kind of a red, and the other one is very on the silver side actually. And so this again, it's a combination of 2 colors, a clear gold and from Mr. Robbie and really shit at this and what? So kind of yellow from clear yellow from Tamiya. And yeah, so they're not the most beautiful cars, but they go really well. And I can talk later on about the Club Corner, what we did last night. But yeah, so just kind of want to show the other.
Nice paint work there.
Again?
It's nice to see a simple paint job there.
Not an art car.
No, yeah, pretty straightforward, more or less. Yeah.
All right, beautiful stuff. And since I don't see any other hands, let's go ahead and move on to Club Corner. Gio, do you want to segue right into your thing? Go ahead.
Yeah, let me open the first image. And then zoom. Share, blah, blah, blah. Wow, it's taking a lot. Okay. Yeah, so yesterday was we're supposed to be 6, but then it was a very stormy night. For coming to my place, some people have to go across a bridge, and it was kind of closing down. Anyway, so some people managed. Where 4 of us, so I had to kind of already prepare these 4 cars that had one that already kind of delivered, let's say. So a while ago, I got the green one, which was the most run one, and then the other 3 came later on. Put chip, which is pretty easy to kind of install. The next things will be putting the lights, but we'll come a bit later on that. So the cars are out of the box. So just installing the chip. I didn't throw tires. I didn't glue tires, just tires, just to put them on, slap them on the truck, and they go very well. I mean, we are running them at 9.5 volts. So they're not, I mean, they're not crazy fast, but they handle pretty well. Although, you know, give you a lot of confidence to kind of pull when we push them around the corners, but then when they kind of come off, they come off. So it's almost like a magnetic car, let's say. Although it's an magnetic power from the motor per se. So the tires generate a lot of grip. So these are the 4 cars that we put up. So I also kind of changed a bit of the format. I mean, we did the normal kind of practice, and so there were some fake laps happening, so I had to kind of change some of the whole sensor wire, I mean, during the different sessions. So for those in oxygen, I'm running the latest firmware, which basically Marici was saying that was solving the issue of the short laps. It's not. So if you have a bad, the whole sensor is still kind of generating those issues. So as you can see, the speed is not crazy. So the 6.8, 6.7, and during the night, because these are still quite new cars, we managed 6.5s compared to our GT3, which could go like 1 second faster than that. But it's kind of pleasant cars to race. They're never crazy quick or crazy kind of manageable as a cars. So we went to qualify. I mean, the grid is kind of similar to what you saw for the practice. Again, here there was another fake lap from Alex. This was before I changed the whole sensor. I think I changed in the second race.
Don't forget to zoom in a little for us.
Yeah. I mean, there is kind of not much to see. I mean, so the main issue was not just the short laps. The main issue is also that sometimes the car, I mean, the old sensor, when it goes over maybe lane changes, I don't know. I mean, puts the car in pit mode, which is freaking annoying if you are on the main track and then your car kind of dies on you, and if you're behind, basically you're gonna bump into the car. So then, okay, we moved into the race settings. So for the race settings, as I said, I changed a bit. For each of the class, I try to modify the way in which we are kind of the different parameters of the race. So in this case, we did a 100 lap race with still fuel and tires. I mean, yeah, so it was a kind of a bit different because now you're not looking at the time kind of checking how much fuel or tires you have left, but you have to look at the laps left, so which kind of change a bit of the mindset. Yeah, I mean, again, I mean, there are some kind of crazy laps here, but more or less the cars are very close. So the races were won by not coming off and damaging and repairing your car. So as you can see, try to maintain my nose clean. The others were a bit more aggressive, let's say, and had more damage points. And this was the story of the night. So this was a race 1. Then we moved to, so these are the kind of grid. I think on the grid they look pretty nice. I mean, one thing that I want to do is I want to put like numbers and some sponsor also on these cars to make them a bit more kind of racing kind of a livery. So, but these will require kind of dismantle a bit, or removing the clear parts and some extra work. So I will come. Then this is a race 2. Yeah, so everybody's pretty close. If you see after 100 laps, which is a 50 minutes race almost. I mean, there are very few difference in the laps. Although it's 100 laps race, I mean, with the RCSO2, sometimes, I mean, if not all the car goes over the finish or start finishing line when the first car marks go over the 100 laps, it keeps going, counting laps. So if you are out of fuel or whatever, you're still sitting there, but they can keep going until you come out. And so this could be a bit annoying. So, but it's not a huge issue. As I mentioned, you can see the fastest laps here kind of improving. My car was not the quickest one. Alex had, I think, the quickest car. So now this is a legit lap. So because I changed all sensors, but the others are pretty close. And Combi started after I changed Alex all sensor, then Combi car started doing crazy laps, although they were not that many. So we did the same kind of format 4 races. So, and the guys were enjoying it. And again, as I mentioned, the number of damage points were key factors whether you were making or not on the podium. So Combi was cleaner than the other one and managed to get ahead of Alex, although Alex had a quicker car than Combi. And what else? So yeah, then the last race.
Gio, sorry to interrupt. What happens when you score that phantom lap, that 3.3? Do you get another lap when you cross the start finish?
Yeah, sometimes you get that. Yeah.
So you can score an additional lap. Is that right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Yes.
Right.
So I don't mind if it's one of the back markers, let's say, they do that. But if when you're coming with Alex or Jan, then A-Team or my other, I mean, the guy that was on Jan this time can mess up your race, because then you. So I try to keep the whole sensor as clean as I can. I mean, or in the sense as functional as I can. But the other thing that like strange here was that the Combi car. I mean, the first half of the race was okay, and then these are kind of fandom of fast laps were happening during the second part of the race towards the end. And I don't know again what the heck was going on there. Anyway. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I mean, the cars is also like you see now we're scoring 654, 653. They are very kind of close as you would expect from Thundersport because they have good quality motors, right? So they are fun class. I mean, I don't like muscle car per se, so I don't really give a damn if they don't look precise. They look ugly anyway, even the real ones. So I mean, I think So I like the chassis. I like it's easy to shape. It is to tune. I mean, you don't need to do much. And the fact that you have good motors that are close to each other, it's a big plus when you want to make like a cluster like with similar specs. I hope that they will bring new bodies at least. I mean, so that you can have a more diverse grid. But I don't know what's going on there. And by the way, have you guys talked about the fact that Giovanni Montiglio is not the owner anymore of Thunderslot?
Oh, I hadn't even heard that.
Yeah, so I think if you look online on Facebook, he's a new guy that is posting and say that owns so the one that posted the Ferrari cars is not Giovanni Montiglio anymore. So I don't know whether the guys from Electric Dreams know anything about that. So, but anyway, so that's us last night.
Gio, have you ever run that car around without its body shell?
No, I mean because of these phantom laps, you mean?
No, I wasn't thinking particularly about that. I was just wondering how much quicker the chassis goes without its body shell. And
the body shells are very light.
About a year down the line, I've still never seen anyone take that chassis and change the body shell to try to make it a seriously competitive car.
Against
Okay,
what?
so what do you mean? Go ahead, Greg.
I was just going to say competitive against what?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, for example, if it had got a NSR 20 gram GT3 shell or a Scale Auto shell or something like that, is its wheelbase suited to being translated into a different class? And is that chassis a top line slot car with a heavy, long, large body shell? Or is it a subpar,
Like
something
basically
that's not quite?
Is the chassis all that, or is it only that? Right? Is the
Yes.
chassis so awesome that it should be under other cars, or is it just as awesome as it is under that particular body? Which you don't know until you try putting other bodies on it.
I guess one would
yeah.
have to look at some of the proxies and see whether anybody has tried it there. But I see Courtney shaking his head, so I know that lots of guys have used
Come on, chime in, Courtney. You know you want to.
Is he aware of anyone who even tried to build a race car out of it?
What you got, Courtney?
No, but his mother said if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. That's why
Say
Courtney's
it,
not
Courtney.
saying anything.
Say the weird thing, Courtney.
I don't have anything weird. They don't appear. I have one. The proxies that I race, I don't see anybody running them. I have one. I was going to build it into a Trans Am car, but the Thunderslot body is not legal for Trans Am. So I was going to fit it under a Camaro or something like that, but I never got around to it. I've got lots of projects. I would rather win GT3 than Trans Am. Just
my experience is that it's not all that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they'll slap a Camaro on top of that at some point. I mean, that would just be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So
well, it might have been a no-brainer when Giovanni was still at Thunderslot, because that, as I recall, was a special project between Thunderslot and either Great Traditions or LEB or somebody like that. So whether there's any motivation left inside Thunderslot to do another one may very much depend on whether the guy who was motivated to do the Mustang in the first place is motivated to do anything else.
But did they sell well? I mean, I got the impression that they sold well.
I don't think they sold that well. I don't know.
I haven't bought one, so I guess that's saying something. They didn't make a blue
The problem with them is they were so butt ugly.
Yeah, they were butt ugly, and they were faster than the Scale Extra Trans Ams, but not fast enough to warrant buying, $300 worth of cars for me. That was.
Yes, it was quite an expensive one, wasn't it?
A lot of flack for the ugliness of the body. The execution was not good.
Yeah.
We allowed them into our classic touring car class, but they had to demotor them, put a Pioneer 18K in it. And a few of them started out with them, but they've slowly faded away now. 70 Camaro seems to, and the Ford Falcon hardtop seems to be the favoured one here in our classic touring class.
From Scale Electric, yeah?
Yeah, we're allowed to put it's an old hangover from another club. They're allowed to put metal chassis under them.
Okay.
But I'm slowly wheeling that back. So it's sort of a legacy class from another club we raced at. Everybody had them, so they're still allowed to run them. But we're slowly phasing them out. They've got to put Scale Electric motors in them this year.
Yeah, I think the chassis so much in fact, there's so many echoes of the steel pan chassis that we see when we see steel pan chassis with Lexan shells on, that it looked like it was just a translation from a competitive type of design to plastic, and it looked like it could have started a different way of thinking about the way the plastic cars might be manufactured. and it's really turned into nothing. It's not happened.
One thing that I can say is the rubber that these cars come in, these standard slot tires that they have, they work pretty well on Scalextrics. I mean, I didn't put any oil or anything, and they grip well. With the NSR, we have the problem that they pick up marbles after the 14 minutes of race that we do. This one did not, and I didn't clean the track, so the track was still with all the crap from the previous races, right? So it's a good rubber. I wish that they had more options for also with the wheels, maybe a kind of a 17 or 70.2 wheels or 18 wheels with the tires that would go with that, like 10 wide and 21 tall.
Yeah.
But it's for Scalextrics track will be ideal, and I believe that this will be working well with other plastic trucks. And of course, if you go through them, they go very well on wood. I mean, our analog club here on wood, they only run basically classes standard slot rubber in most of the classes. So
has that car got the triple ridge wheel?
Yeah.
And I presume the tire is molded to accommodate all three of those ridges, yeah?
Say again?
And I presume that the tire is molded to accommodate all three of those ridges. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, it fits very well. I mean, I don't know if you mean if it has like a double slot inside. I don't think that's the case. I mean, you could slap the tire on normal air system.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it does not have any extra ribs inside. The center one, for instance, right? So it does not have that. And it's also strange because the external one is the external wall of the tire is rounded, and the internal one is straight. So
yeah.
All right, so my club corner is our.
I just had a question for Gio still.
Sure, go ahead, Jason.
Sorry.
No worries.
About your oxygen setup. Is that the first time you've run it at 9.5 volts?
No.
Right.
No. We have a class. Again, yeah, I've run also 9 volts.
Okay, and the oxygen system obviously seems okay with that running that low.
Yeah, the chip do not complain. So I have everything kind of separated. Like the lane changers take power from another power supply, which I run always. So these are standard Scalextrics lane changers that basically I feed them not from the rails but from another power supply. And I think I run that one 13 volts or something like that. And only the rails are kind of powered. So they go lower 9 volts, and controllers, of course, take power from another power bus that I have that is around 9 volts or something like that.
Okay, I just wondered maybe the ghosting might be something to do with that, being close to the edge of stable.
Not really, because I have that ghost lapse also with when I run like a 10 volts or 10 and a half when we do the GT3. Again, depends a lot on it's mainly I think the old sensor, because for instance, I've bought just the old sensors from these electronic shops online, so I have the right specs. And so if I have one that comes with the chip does not work, I just kind of remove it and then I solder on my own one, right? And usually this solves the problem. But with this specific one, was not solving the problem. So I removed the complete harness one knot and I put a new one that I know that was working because it was another car and I have that problem. And then basically the problem went away. So, I don't know if it was something, it's kind of a mystery at the moment. Yeah. So.
Okay, cool.
We must add that Gio's component is not the one on the ribbon cable, it's the one for the B2 chip, which is a physically larger, easily available component, much easier to switch. Yeah.
I have also the one for the ribbon one.
Gosh, so you'll be repairing ribbon.
Yeah,
ribbon one
if I
next.
want to, I can. Yeah, I mean, I will repair some of the chips, the oxygen, the beetle. And at one point I want to show you. So they were like very tiny resistors. So it's 0201 or something like that. I mean, it's crazy small, but yeah, I can repair that as well.
Yeah.
Repair. I mean, it's just a soldering. I mean, repairing is a big word. I just kind of put the stuff back. Although I had to recreate a bit of the truck for the pad for the component. But yeah, I can do that.
More power to you. So that kind of segues into what I was going to start talking about with my track. I've spent the last several weeks cleaning up my mess of a garage so that I could host a race. I told him that I would host a race so to force me to clean up my garage so that I could host a race. That's how I work. And I decided
like
that
digital race.
It's analog.
Oh,
it's with the analog club, but I decided to do the IROC as a digital. And at first I was like, well, I've got all these Scalextric digital cars. I'll, see what kind of cars I have for that. And, I set up some cars that I could do for that. And then when I went around testing my hardware that I haven't used forever, the base that I wanted to use for the program that I wanted to use, for whatever reason, was not detecting digital cars. It was detecting the analog cars just fine, but not digital ones. So then I had a debate with myself about whether or not I wanted to use a completely different program with Scalextric digital and just use it within the parameters of that program, RCS64 for example, or figure out how to do the whole thing with Oxygen, because I had enough controllers and chips that I could set up an IROC set with Oxygen. So I bit the bullet and decided that I would do it with Oxygen. So I set up my 3D printed Glickenhaus cars that I had already put together for analog IROC. I went ahead and put a bunch of Type-C chips in those and got those working. And got my controllers all working. I'm still doing Oxygen 3, not Oxygen 4. And so once I got those cars all working, I'm like, okay, well, what software am I going to use? Well, Chrono 2 and Chrono do not do rotational racing like how we race, and neither does RCS02 apparently. I kind of thought RCS02 would do it like RCX64, but it does not. So then I was left back at square one with, should I go back to SSD and RCS64 or buy PC Lap Counter, which I have resisted up until the other day when I finally decided to go ahead and pay for a license for PC Lap Counter, which I have pretty much never really used in earnest. So then I spent the next day and a half trying to figure out how to set up PC Lap Counter to do the closest I could come up with for the kind of racing that we do for, 2 minutes. And I just, it doesn't it can't pause in the middle like we're used to. So I had to just say, okay, well, we're going to marshal it because these guys it's just going to be a crash fest with these guys not used to racing digital on my tiny little technical track. So no point in pausing at the halfway point because we're just going to put the cars right back on anyway. So straight 2-minute heat. 4 cars on the track because no way in hell I'm going to have 6 cars with these idiots driving around on my track. 4 was more than enough. 2 is more than enough on my track for most of these guys. But I did the 4 Glickenhaus cars with Oxygen. I had 3 SCP-3 controllers and 1 SCP-1 controller with an old Oxygen cartridge. Type-C chips in all Glickenhaus cars. PC Lap Counter set up the best I could possibly figure out. I ran a bunch of test races where I just in turn drove all 4 cars around for a few seconds to make sure it was counting laps and doing what I wanted. And I had a couple instances where it was doing what happened that you mentioned, Gio, where for whatever reason a car decided that it was in pit lane and PC Lap Counter said, oh, well, you're in pit lane now, so you're going to go slow forever until the start of the next heat or whatever. I ended up pulling the magnets, because I have the lap counting and the pit lane magnets on removable things that I can take out from underneath my track. So I removed the ones in the pit lane, because these idiots will accidentally run through the pit lane all the time. So no pit lane, just a third lane for part of the lap. And I kept having lap counting or lap detection problems. This is before I did the PC lap counting thing. So circling back a little bit, getting the car set up, they were missing laps all the time. Like, what the F? What am I doing wrong? And with the Glickenhaus, pretty much the only place you can put the Hall sensor is way the heck out to the side. It's either in line, which is pointless, or way out to the side. And the magnets I had used for setting up my track were the tiny little slotted magnets, which are just super short. And they were near the slot. So basically the Hall sensor was outside the magnetic field of the magnets that were being used for lap counting. So I'm okay, well, I need to put bigger magnets in there. Scalextric bar magnets fit on one side of the slot, but not the other side of the slot, because from the slot to the center is wider than from the slot to the outside wall, because of the double wall on the outside for borders to hook onto. So I had to sit there with a Dremel carving a little angle off of one corner of the Scalextric magnet so that it would fit right up against the bottom of the track to give the best possible magnetic field. But that was worth it. Did the trick. All the cars were counting laps like a champ. Never missed a single lap. As far as I know, we didn't get any double laps. But there was carnage like you would expect from a bunch of analog racers with digital cars on a technical track that they haven't run on for 4 years, and cars that they never run with 3D printed bodies and chassis and guides. I lost 2 guides that I had to replace while we were racing, but that's because they were prototype guides that I really shouldn't have been using in the first place. I did not get any video. Obviously, I was way too busy dealing with stuff. But Russ came with his GoPro. So if you're subscribed to Russ Paver's Slot Car channel, I'll put a link later. He recorded the whole thing. So you can go in there and just laugh your ass off while we're making a mess of everything. And at one point, PC Lap Counter was doing weird things, and I tried to pause the race, but I think I ended up actually stopping the current heat and then tried to rerun the current heat and ended up with like double or triple the laps for everybody that was racing in that heat. It was a shit show. It was just an absolute shit show. But they're nice. They're good sports.
Yeah. So I'm surprised about, that you were not able to fit the Scalextric magnet, because that's what I use. And recently, so I had like 2 stack on each other for between, and basically, 2 on each side of the slot.
Yeah, it's really close.
Yeah, so I managed to do that.
But it wouldn't go completely flat. Like, it goes in there, but it's like that rather than that.
Okay.
And it probably would have worked okay. It probably would have worked okay, but I'm anal, so I shaved off a little bit so that it would be perfectly flat. Because I was tired of dealing with it. I'm like, I don't want to be worrying about this damn magnet anymore. They should make a lap counting straight with magnets, with pre-installed magnets that are like the whole width of the track surface. Anyway, to finish the whole story, they graciously finished the IROC race with these cars that they hated on a track that they hated with a program that they hated. And then we did our analog race, which was much more normal for our racing. NSR F22s. Plenty of carnage with those because, you touch a wheel and the cars go flying. But less than I expected, surprisingly. It was basically the same amount of crashing on my track as on all the other guys' bigger tracks. So that was kind of refreshing that it wasn't worse on my track. I did not win, but I did not lose. I guess that's technically the end of the story. If you want to, like I said, if you want to laugh your ass off and watch the carnage, Russ will have a video up on his channel probably within the next couple of days.
Sounds like you did quite a lot.
Okay, Wayne, and then.
Well, mine was just a comment. It actually sounds like you did quite a lot of slot car in this time period with all that track modification and then
more than I've done in a long time, especially because one of the guys didn't get any of the emails about whether we're racing on Memorial Day or the next day, and he showed up on Memorial Day evening, and I'm like, oh, he didn't get the messages. For whatever reason, they were going to his spam. They were going to his spam folder, so he never got them. But I let him play around, and he helped me figure out that the cars.
That's what he came for. He came for a bit of pre-race practice.
That's what he came. And I'm like, you came here. We're not going to make you, make the trip for nothing. So he helped me figure out that yes, in fact, it's okay to run the F22s on this track without canceling crash and burn, but not putting them back on. They run at 10 volts, real nice on this track. 9 volts was a little low, 11 volts was a little high, 10 volts was pretty much perfect for this track. And he got a little extra practice time, not that he needed it, because he's one of our newest racers, but used to race, the fast cars at the commercial raceway when he was younger. He picked up my track in minutes. He was pacing me in minutes. I had no home track advantage at all with him. So, but yeah, and then the race on Tuesday, and then right before the Zoom chat, one of the other guys came over so I could help him learn his controller better because he's still having problems figuring out how to tweak an SCP controller.
So is that the guy Cousin from Wayne's cousin, maybe? The guy that came on Memorial Day at your place? Do some extra practice. So what was the software that you want to use before, Greg? You said that it was another software you want to use with SSD.
It's the software that was written by one of our members a long time ago that our club basically uses exclusively.
Ah, okay.
It's just called simply Race Manager or X or something like that, and it still works, so we still use it. And it's the only thing that does our bizarre format where we race 2 separate minutes in a heat. Yeah.
And do you have any problem with was your truck still in use by you just for testing, or was it basically no use at all in this period, in this time?
I used it on and off over the years,
but
okay. I never really put it through its paces with digital cars because I mostly would test my cars for the analog club, and I would test oxygen things. So they didn't need to use the infrared sensors of the Scalextric digital. So I was surprised when I couldn't get the old, because it was basically the C7030 is the only base that works with that program. So for whatever reason, it decided it didn't want to count digital laps anymore. So yeah, I figured if I was going to use a whole nother program, I would go ahead and just go all in on oxygen. And now I've got PC Lap Counter, which does oxygen 4 and rotations and everything. I just need to learn what button on the keyboard not to press when there's a problem with the track. Don't press this.
By the way, Chrono 2 I think only works with oxygen 4, so I don't think that you had any.
No, I knew not to bother with Chrono 2, but neither one of them rotation.
In any case, I don't think that was already a problem with the heats and stuff. Because it's pretty basic.
Could you imagine 10 guys, 10 cars on this track, 16 meters, 54 feet of track? No, not with these guys. No. All right, enough about me. Let's let Lenny do his thing. Go ahead, Lenny.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, or good evening, or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be.
G'day.
Just trying to bring up a photo up.
Oh, you went and shared the folder.
Oh, yeah, it's coming.
He shared screen.
He shared screen.
It's coming. There you go. So this is a promotion photo. We had round 4 of our point score series, otherwise known as the Sheep Station series. And this week we had Modern GT, Revo Slot Sports and GT. So we run them all in together, and Group C. First up, we ran the Revo slots because young Andrew doesn't like them, so he whinged enough to get me to run them first, so get them out of the way. But just the same, he did pretty well. Jeff won that. Had a fairly good lap time as well, 6.4, getting close to the lap record there. He got 105, and then Andrew with 103, then Jason 102. It was all LMPs. this particular race, and Norm wasn't too far behind. So there's the podium. So 2 GT1 Toyotas and a Ferrari 333 SP. So that's Jeff, Andrew S and Jason. So it was a pretty good race in the end. I had a pretty ordinary run with me GT2 Porsche, but that's another story. Next up, we were in Group C, and for a change, Jeff didn't win the Group C's, although he was coming home at a great rate of knots for a little while there. Then he got to red and got the yips, so he lost it by, 0.24 of a lap, 0.024 of a lap to young Andrew. You can see by his lap times he was pretty quick. Once again, he was getting down close to the lap record. A nice great name for third with my old Porsche, 962. There's the podium. So young Andrew's running a XJR 10, and Jeff's got the inevitable Nissan, and I've got this old Porsche that still keeps going around. I think I got it more through consistent laps than any speed I was getting out of it. And then to finish up, we ran the modern GT cars, and Ian basically ran away with that race. He bought an NSR Mercedes SLS off one of the other lads for about $20 the other week. Took it home, gave it a tune. The other bloke couldn't get it to go. Gave it a tune, and then went out and ran away with the race by nearly 3 laps. And once again, another one close to the lap record, not quite there, a couple of thousandths off. And then Andrew followed him home in third, and Jeff having another good night. Andrew in second and Jeff in third. And I wombled home in fourth with my Porsche. And Norm, Jason, Andrew, Callum, and Steve. Steve didn't have a very good night with his GT1. It wasn't his GT2. The GT, modern GT. It wasn't handling very well. So there's the podium for that. So there's the 2 SLSs on the first and second, and then the Mercedes coming home in third for Jeff. And there's the point scores at the moment. Young Andrew's got a pretty good run. At the moment, he's cleared out a little bit from Jason, who didn't have a particularly good night last night. So Ian's caught up to him. So they're level on 184. Then Jeff got past me. He's been having a bit of a purple patch lately. He's had a few wins. And I'm just sort of scraping around in the midfield. And Norm, Steve, Callum, Andrew, and Max, who hasn't been for a while. Max is one of our infrequent visitors. He comes along now and again, but they're always very welcome. And then I've got a video to share, if you don't mind. That's one of the modern GT heats. That's 2 minutes, so it's a bit longer than what I normally do, but I had a bit of a wander around the track instead of standing in the one place. For some reason there's no sound, but
that's okay.
That McLaren, is that NSR or a sideways McLaren?
No, it's a McLaren. That's an NSR 720S, so it's got the big motor in it. That's a particularly quick car. Jeff has a bit of a problem on red lane. He gets the yips on red coming into the dogleg here and the hairpin, so it mucks up his races now and again. He has suggested I bog red lane up, which is what I suggested on another track a few years ago. I could never get the hang of. But it's always a bit of a giggle with us.
Yeah, those NSR motors are quite torquey, so they can be tricky to drive.
Oh, yeah. A few of us have trouble with them. You've got to really play with your controller to get them right. Muck around with the gearing a bit. I generally go up a tooth on the pinion to try and calm them down a bit.
What's that white line that goes across the lanes there?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was back in the days when we were going to race, do manual inputs for tenths of a lap.
Oh.
So each one of those is 1/10 of a lap. But in the end, we got the computerized system and didn't need to use them.
So you've made the 10th of a lap there quite long by being a diagonal line.
Yeah, but basically what I did is I got out a long tape measure and stuck it in the slot and measured out 2.6 meters because it's a 26 meter track. So that's basically where 2.6 measures up on that particular slot. And then I just drew a line across this to signify it.
Yeah, and the reason that the line's at an angle like that is just because every segment is the same length on every lane.
Yeah,
Rather than just marking it radially.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had a track like that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was going to put numbers on and everything. Then race coordinator come along, so I thought, well, I'll give that a go. And after some mucking around,
how does race coordinator change the need to know what segment you finished in?
Oh no, we race to the line each heat.
Oh, okay.
So it calculates the partial lap somehow.
Well, then it calculates the time between the end of the heat and the time you cross the line.
Yes.
Yeah. Like a radio control car.
Yeah, so you cross the line, and after the time runs out, you complete the following lap. It tells you the race is over once everybody's crossed the line.
Yeah.
Good little system. I'm still using version 9, so.
Which means that some people actually get a longer duration.
Well, they get yeah.
A lap of shame.
Yeah, well, half a lap. Everybody, but basically, the time runs out and you just complete your last lap. So it's pretty much like modern what you see in a lot of modern car racing. You go for a time period.
So when you can console yourself with coming last by knowing that you ran 4 seconds longer than the guy who's 4 seconds ahead of you.
I got more race time.
Not unless your laps ahead.
You
could be winning the race and come through the thing last because your laps ahead.
Yeah.
So we use it quite often. Yeah, and that can be.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so what we do is we run 3-minute heats, and then there's a 90-second lane change. The guys actually drive the car back to the podium, the driver's podium, give their tyres a bit of a whiz, and then they get roughly about a minute warm up, and then at the 20-second mark before the heat starts, they get told to line up, and we do another race start. So they get 4 race starts in each race. So that way, there's no arguments over, oh, your car shouldn't be there; it should be over there, and that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
and they're all happy with it. They all enjoy it. And there's 6 of the usual suspects there. There's Norm in the red and black top. Ian, Callum,
we don't
Andrew.
see the screen anymore.
I switched it off. Sorry. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They'll probably all want to be anonymous anyway. So they're probably all on wanted posted somewhere in Adelaide. But yeah. All right. So that's it for me. I'll get out your way.
All right. Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Iowa Model Auto Racing Club. We had our event last Sunday. Let me see if I can share the screen. And if you're in beautiful Cedar Rapids, Iowa this year or this weekend, there's another race coming up this Sunday at a different track. So stop by. Let's see, this sharing now.
Yep.
Okay. So this is the track in Marion, Iowa. We had, I think, 8 or 9 racers out. I don't know if this will even play. I can't tell if it's going. This is our Scale Electric Trans Am series, and the white lane and the yellow lane are on rubber tires. The blue and the red would be on silicone. I know last week you guys had asked how we do with both, and so far it seems okay. I don't know that there's any major difference on this particular track anyway. In the standings, the big news though is that let me see. The fat guy is moved into 2nd place in standings. I don't know how I did it, but here I am. And that's it. Everybody else who's not on the chat, they should join if they want to talk about their own racing. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in 2nd place. So I'm never going to get to 1st place. That guy wins like every race, but I'll take 2nd.
Technically,
it's a moral
second,
victory.
But emotionally 1st.
Oh, emotionally, I'm over the moon right now. Are you kidding me? Oh, so all right.
Was that an IROC? Will the cars stay put on the lanes?
No, we race. You rotate through all the lanes, and then you can pick whatever tire you want in our club. So if you prefer rubber, you race on rubber. If you prefer silicone, you run silicone. The only thing you can't do is foam. So that's it.
Oh, so people aren't changing their rear axles to switch from lane to lane. You said that the red and blue with silicone. And
I just know those two guys, their cars, how they were set up, they were with rubber tires. I knew that because they raced the other club where you can only race rubber tires.
That just happened to be for that video. That's how
they're on that video. So here's the weird thing: is that particular track owner, he after he cleans his track, he wipes everything down with copper tone banana boat suntan lotion. Now, I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever seen, but apparently they said the Cleve Tech guy does it to his tires, so they put it on the track. I don't know.
It works for rubber. It's basically an oil that will work for rubber. I'm just surprised it helps silicone or it doesn't hurt.
Oh, it doesn't help silicone. I bitched about it the whole time. So I was wildly inconsistent in spots, but it just kind of it was just I'd never heard of putting copper tone on a track before until
I've heard it on.
I've heard of people putting it on foam.
Yeah,
put it on the tires, just not the track.
Well, I knew they were preservative, like when you store your tires. I knew people did that, but I don't know. So anyway, you can see there's like when you put your. Sorry, what was that?
Did the track get darker at the end? It's darker.
No, I'll bring a sun. I should bring a UV light and start like changing the color of the track. But like you can see when the light hits it, you can like move your fingers through it, or even sometimes when you see a car come around, you can see like almost like a little grease stain or like a film on there. I don't know. I just was hoping somebody else had done that too, but I don't know. It was odd.
I haven't been.
Well, it's not unheard of to treat the track, put the additive on the track, not just on the tire.
I mean, I've seen that done. I've seen plastic track magnet racing with silicone tires, where the guys would spray Windex right on the track as the cars were about to pass over it to like help clean the tires. But that's a whole different thing than rubber tires with oil that soaks into the tires. And did he put it the whole track? He basically wiped it down with a thin coat of copper tone.
I've seen Scalextric Sport Track become, instead of useless with no magnets, become and stock tires, I might add, become completely usable as a non-mag stock tire just by wiping the whole track down with WD-40.
I remember somebody talking about putting WD-40 on the track, which I thought was crazy. But
classic or sport?
The sport track. Yeah, it works an absolute treat.
Because at least the WD-40, the tires can absorb some of the WD-40, but it also kind of gets tacky as it dries out.
Well, it's applied directly to a cloth, and the cloth is applied to the track, and the whole track comes up shiny and blacker and dustless for the most part, and the grip is just there, even for stock tires. I can't say, I don't know what it's like with other tires, but we did it to a track that was out in a dusty environment, as in outdoors on a summer day, and it became, instead of being useless, it became useful, and it stayed that way for quite some time.
Greg, do that to your track, and let's do an experiment. You go ahead and.
Well, I'll do it next week.
There you go. Michael will do it. Do it.
Yeah, I'll do it next week because the outside lane on my track is longer, and it's a little slipperier because it doesn't get run as much. So I'll try it in that lane and see if I can get it to a parity. See what happens.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I don't advocate for it, but it seemed to work.
He's not telling you to do it, but we definitely want to know.
Yeah, we definitely want to know.
Yeah, I'd be interested to find out. It'd be fun to do.
Yeah. Just have some acetone ready.
No long-term harm. The track was used again and again and again. It's one of the tracks that goes out to promote the club, if you like, and it's also it's a money-making venture. It funds the club because people pay to have a go, if you like, and it's got a gazebo. It all transports around in a transit van. It's got a leaderboard. It's it's the full bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wait for the verdict on that.
I will report next week.
Excellent.
But look, Don't blame me, please, if it doesn't work.
Hey, you can always clean it off.
You're getting
Exactly.
the blame. You're for sure getting the blame, and whoever you saw do it gets the accolades if it works. Not you.
Yeah.
You're
Well, you
putting
just
down
share it fine, don't
WD-40. I
you?
don't know what you're going to use to put it up again.
What's that?
If you're going to put down WD-40, what are you going to use to get it up again?
Well, there's enough solvents. You can use acetone. That'll probably
a
take
plastic track?
Isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah, on scale extric.
Sport is polypropylene. It doesn't react to acetone.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, just don't do that on a Carrera trick.
Yeah.
Oh no. No, I know acetone doesn't harm it. I've tried it before.
Oh.
I've used it to clean before I paint it.
Yep.
And it works great.
Isopropyl alcohol would probably work okay too.
Windex would work just fine.
Yeah, Windex is probably a good idea.
To clean it off?
Yeah,
Yeah.
even to clean the track.
Yeah.
Just as a cleaning method. Yep. All right, 5 to 10 minutes left. What you got?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, so listening to people's racing reports over the years and whatever, some of the racing seems extremely close. And I'm wondering if there's any kind of trend, or like, does wood track racing create closer racing? What's your experience? Or plastic? I feel like maybe wood tracks, there's a more closer racing compared to plastic. Wondering what people's experiences or thoughts on that are.
So my opinion and experience is that it has nothing to do with the track. It's the people. It's the drivers. Doesn't matter what track they're on. If you have parity among drivers, then it's gonna be a close race.
Okay.
If you're after closer racing, slow down the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
was just wondering if
closer racing.
But if you get a spread of skill levels, unless you're just holding the trigger down and watching the car go around, you're gonna have the faster guys be faster and the poor drivers not so fast. I'll say that. Yeah.
I just wondered if the smoother surface of the wood kind of helped in that respect.
No, because unless the track is really bad and it's just knocking your car off just from rolling down the straight, it's almost never the track that's causing drivers to perform poorly. And if it is, then it affects all the drivers the same way. So it's still gonna level out in the end, because a skilled driver will be able to maneuver and get through those tricky sections better than a new driver will.
I think where it might make a difference is experience on one or the other. I race plastic track. I probably wouldn't do as well on a wooden track versus people who drive a wooden track routinely.
No, I don't think so. I think the main difference going from your track to another track is the difference, not plastic to wood. If you had the exact same layout in wood as you do in plastic, you'd probably do just as well on the wood track. Not because it's wood, but because
that's about the driver and the timing of the throttle inputs, etc. But my personal experience was that when I'd got a lot of track experience on plastic, and then I first started to go to wood, my car setup knowledge techniques were just irrelevant, and the car was far more sensitive to how it was set up, and the setup became more critical. And I just think it was because the grip level was higher. It made it more critical whether or not you were running on front tires, for example. That was my biggest lesson. You can't run with front wheels in the air on a smooth, flat plastic wooden track with high grip. My cars initially would just roll over. Change to some larger tires on the front, put the car on the front tires, and it completely transformed it. Now I could use it. But that was my single biggest lesson. It was hard to set up for wood, but that's the direction I went from what I knew to what I didn't. So
it was different to set up for wood.
it was different. Yeah, it's definitely different.
So my answer, I should have prefaced it with all things being the same, meaning if you have a car that's set up for your plastic track and then you go and run, similar or same car that's set up for the wood track, proper tires, proper ride height, proper everything for the track, proper braid formation, all that stuff. Yes, obviously, if you take your car that you've just set up to run perfectly on your Scalextric or whatever, and then plop it on a wood track without any changes whatsoever, there's a dozen things that can be wrong with the setup of that car.
Well, and even switching from Scalextric to Polycar,
is
significant.
A copper tape versus braid on a wood track, still a wood track, but different contact setup, different braid setup, different car setup.
And then when you throw in the factor, well, the 124 scale that I do, they use spray glue on the corners. So then you have a whole nother ball of interesting things to figure out.
When I started with this club, they had 2 plastic Revell tracks and 1 wood track. And eventually, like all the people that were the top drivers in that kind of mix, as different tracks came in, now we have only like 1 plastic track left. But the top drivers back then are still the top drivers now. It's nothing, even though we have more wood now tracks, it's just those top drivers are still gonna figure out how to balance their cars
the racing
out.
closer. I mean, are the top guys closer to each other, or the bottom guy closer to the top guy on a wood track than he is on a plastic track?
I don't know. I'll take a look at that.
It depends on whether you're over 1 lap or over the race.
Over a race, I mean, 1 lap's.
Assuming the race format is the same from track to track.
Yeah.
I'll get some stats for us, and I'll look at, because I keep track of all the stats on my track when I race the plastic here. I'll kind of look at what the guys are doing in the club and just kind of see how their averages are.
Yeah,
I think it's more difficult for a wood track racer to go to a plastic track than the other way around.
What'd you say? It's easier to go from wood to plastic?
No, it's more difficult to go from wood to plastic than the other way around.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I won't disagree necessarily, other than either way, you're having to learn how to set up the car for that track.
And how to drive it on that track. And I'm speaking from personal experience. My throttle control on a wood track and my necessary throttle control on a plastic track are quite a lot different. I don't drive plastic tracks anywhere near as well as I drive a wood track, mainly because I just don't have enough traction for the way that I drive.
That's the thing, isn't it? There's a significant traction difference, and that requires a certain finesse on the plastic that I don't necessarily think is there in the wood.
Yeah, especially when you add the inherent unevenness of the plastic track on top of that. Yeah. So I would say it's more difficult the other way around. Whether that means that the racing is not as close is another matter. That was Jason's original question.
Yeah.
But personally, I would think that the racing is closer on a wood track, especially with slower cars. The slower the cars, the closer the racing. Always.
Yeah, always.
Well, since the 3 of us that usually race on mine also race on the wood track, there's a much bigger difference on the wood track than there is on the plastic track.
Between the 3 of you?
Yeah, between the 3 of us. Shiggy's usually quicker. He's also much more aggressive and drives differently, but he's on the plastic track, he's off more often than even me.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. So, but we also have the additional fuel simulation thing, which means that your controller changes about every 3 or 4 laps. You have a different rate of braking and acceleration. And that throws another thing into the mix that you have to be adaptable for.
And that's digital, right?
That's digital, yeah.
Yeah. So digital's another variable which would be pretty tough to compare, but thinking analog to analog, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Just We run polycar, which is extremely consistent regardless of temperature. Like we're in the tropics. My track is upstairs in our shop. So when we go up there, it's the same temperature as outside, 30 plus degrees and all the humidity, but I can run laps within tenths of when it's down to 24 and dry. So the consistency is really good with polycar, but I just wondered about, bringing the field together if the track surface, like wood versus plastic, I just hear so much close racing, and ours is really spread out. So
what kinds of cars do you run? Do you run quick ones or slow ones?
all kinds. We don't change the voltage. Voltage is the same, 12 volts, and we run, your standard classes, your GT3, we run Group C, we run stock classes, we run GT3 is a completely open class, so that's our fastest class. Stock Formula Ones, we run all kinds of different stuff. But even with our guys that are the fast guys, finishing on the same lap is very, very rare. 3-minute rounds.
I guess I would rephrase the question to, we have a wide disparity between first and last on our polycar track. Should we switch to wood?
Yeah, there you go. Because I've driven a little bit of wood when I go back to Australia, and I just find, the racing is so much closer. And whether that's because of the experience of the drivers, and also the combined, like I said, I've come from plastic to wood, and
that's basically what I'm getting at. Is that no, if you switch to wood, you're not going to suddenly see a massive change in the gap between first and last. There might be a small change because, in some situations, wood is a little bit easier to drive because it's a little bit smoother, but polycar is pretty good. It's a stiff track. It's not like a bumpy Ninco track or even a bumpy Scalextric track. It's still pretty good, consistent track. So it's not the track. They just need more experience.
Your setup parameters are going to change, but not necessarily the quality of the driving.
Yeah, it takes years of rate to get.
And then it all goes away as you get older.
Hey, what race program are you using?
I use a program called BistBox, which is out of Italy, because Maurizio, we're a slotted distributor, so it was just easy for him to grab for me. It's
give you
okay.
Complete data, every lap you do, does it show you a spreadsheet of everything you've done?
I don't think so. I haven't had a chance to dig for that. I would like to see that, but I haven't had a chance to dig for it.
So just like on ours, I dump all that data, so I can go back and look at my history and go, oh, on his track in the yellow lane, I'm terrible. So when I get there for practice, I just practice that yellow lane to get better at that. I mean, there's small stuff like that I do. I'm sure everybody can do, but that's one of the biggest things. Figuring out what you're bad at and correcting it. Not you personally, but all right.
I'm gonna